Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Cincinnati-based Illustrator John McCoy, and today you're watching part 17 of Learning to Draw with Fun with a Pencil, based on the book by Andrew Loomis. And we finally arrived at drawing figures, so we're going to jump in on these two pages, 54 and 55. For those of you who are new to the channel, I'm a professional illustrator based in the Cincinnati area, working for 10 plus years, creating public works of art and commissions for private clients as well, pet portraits, people portraits. Currently working on a mural for a church in Hamilton, Ohio. And I have experience teaching art at the Art Academy of Cincinnati, at St. Aloysius Gonzaga's grade school, as well as Oldenburg Academy in Indiana. So we are studying right now how to draw the figure. In these two pages, 54 and 55, we talk about the variety of proportions. Remember in the last lesson, part 16, we talked about this guy, figuring out how to draw him. His head is made of a ball, his chest is made of a ball, the pelvis is a box with slants incorporated, and the spine wraps around the back of the ball. And then we have pads for the hands and balls for the joints. And there's some lessons for curvature, so go back and watch that if you haven't. Watch the whole series if you haven't. It's good to start from the beginning. But let's go ahead and jump in on page 54 with a little demonstration of how the figure can change. We can exaggerate the figure, basically. So in this case, in the top, we have a figure, a little bit of a divided ball and plane method here. Rough in the face, and we're exaggerating that the chest ball is very small here. Draw those shoulders over there. The arms right about the bottom of the rib cage there. And we have those pads for the hands. Then the pelvis here, also very small compared to the head. Remembering that the upper legs tilt inward, curve inward, and then the outer legs curve outward. Kind of like if you imagine if you're pushing something down, it squishes out, kind of like a wine glass type thing, and it forms a base that holds the weight, and that is a biomechanical mechanism. So there we have that little guy. Now we're going to exaggerate this guy. This is just to show some variety here. So we have like kind of an average size head here. Draw the midline, little eyes, eyebrows, nose, mouth, ears. And now we exaggerate that this has a really large chest ball, but it still has the same pattern as far as the upside down Y. Draw the shoulders over this. Notice how the arms get pushed out because really the shoulders can't change length too much. The distance between the shoulders can't change too much. And because of the size of the chest ball, the arms get pushed out at that angle. So take note of that. I'm going to draw these little hand pads here. This is just a quick exercise. You can go through and draw all of the references on this page, 54. That would be very good practice for you. I've done this page already, so right now I'm just demonstrating that there is an immense diversity following the exact same character that we drew in the last lesson, part 16. So now let's dramatize this a little more. Let's say this character has large hips. So again, head is basically normal, is basically equal to the last two that we've drawn. This eyebrows, nose, being very, very light with this here, as you can see. Tiny chest, same pattern. But this time, we have a very large pelvis. And this is kind of not realistic, but it just adds character to your characters, that you can have all kinds of characters standing here. So that's 54 basically. You can go through this. It's kind of funny, the grandpappy. Now we're going to jump over to 55 because 55 is more important than 54. This is to show diversity of proportions. Your little figures may be varied in any sort of way. But now this is a very important part. We shall start at once to put them into action. There will always be movement. There will always be movement of the parts. Draw this page carefully and become thoroughly familiar with the movement of each part. So we're going to try to do our best with this page. Try to get as much as we can. So I've scooped this up a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. Let's see if I can scoot this back or get the whole. There we go. Now we can see the whole page. Okay, so there's a lot of principles at play. Some of this we've already reviewed in the divided ball and plane method, which is to say that there is a huge variety of the poses of the head. In the last lesson, we talked about how you can move the parts around in any direction as long as it obeys the rules. For instance, you cannot move this shoulder further from this shoulder. They can rotate or move around, but they have to stay equidistant. The same goes with what I said in the previous video about how the chest ball has the spine wrapping around it, and the spine can move, but the chest ball cannot, so it's very flexible. Okay, the head can take any position of the ball and plane. See page 39. I think it'd be worth it going, just popping back there to see what he's talking about with that. 39, there we go, divided ball and plane method. So if you follow the divided ball and plane method, you can do any pose. So let's just run through these real quick. I'm drawing the ball here. I'm slicing it, putting this angled line. Sorry, I'm going to go very quick with this just to try to get as much of this page as I can so you can see the principle behind it. And you can see that this angle, we are seeing the bottom right here of the chin. And then that neck goes there. We got the shoulders roughed in like that. But you're looking a little bit up. This one, let's start with the shoulders, roughing that in. This one, we still have the same ball, but when we have the midline going down such an extreme angle like this, we see, obviously, that the head is tilted very extremely downward. And that gives that sense of movement of the head, that it can move down. Let's just draw a little arrow where the guy is looking. So you can see that. We'll move on to the third one. This is a kind of a fun pose. We have the ball, but we have the center line, and we have this extreme upwards angle looking at the ear here, and this is the bottom of the chin and a little bit of the neck you're seeing, tilting back like that. And you can see the underside of the nose because this is such a extremely tilted view of the head. Okay, we got that. Move on to this one, which is similar to this one, but going in the opposite direction. So we have that center line dropping down with the plane added to that, shaving off the ball like this, putting the ear on there, and throwing in the nose, the mouth, and the eyes here, looking down in that direction, following suit with what we said before, that the character is looking up, looking down here in this case, and one more pose. No, two more poses. Let's get that. This guy, another more of an upward angle. You can see the neck there with this. Follow that center line. We're seeing the undersides of the eyes and the undersides of the nose, the mouth. Very interesting little pose there. That one, you basically have a little ear right there. And then we will, let's move it up here. Last pose for the head. Start with the shoulders there, watching the angle of this. A very extreme position here, showing that we're seeing all of the underside of the neck there. And then we are seeing I would say that the ball plane method, divided ball plane method, is very helpful for positioning the elements, because in this case, my tendency was to put the ear up higher because I didn't know where to put it until I thought about the ball. And then I said, okay, it has to be back here because we're following that angle. And this one is an extreme upward angle. So, okay, so now we move on to this one. Movement of the shoulders, hips, spine, and pelvis, twisting, bending. Yeah, we have a little bit of contrapposto aqui right here, which is basically something I learned in art school. When the human body puts force down on all the weight on one foot, the other leg is freed up and it creates a tilt in the pelvis and a counter tilt in the shoulder. So that's kind of interesting. This part is the cool part. I can't wait to get to this, but let's run through this real quick. Study these forms pretty well. You can start with the head. So we'll draw them kind of small. We may have to go on to another page. We got the shoulder in this angle. You can draw those angles in. And we have this curvature happening. We attach the ball of the chest to that curvature, and then we draw those shoulders in there. Let's start with the main column first, getting in the chest ball and the pelvis there first before we attach the limbs. That will help us understand how this works. It seems pretty extreme here, but remember that your character is going to be lined up. You're not really going to find somebody stationary unless they're very good at gymnastics or balance or ballerina or whatever, with their head not positioned almost directly above the center of gravity of their legs. So we don't have to worry about this position changing too much. We'll learn more about center of gravity down here in this section, which is super cool. Can't wait to get to that section, but let's finish out this one. So we have the center of the spine and how that curves. And now let's draw the legs. Let's give this person some grounding. So we'll just copy his sketch and understand how that's going. And then we've got, it looks weird sometimes, but remember your spacing. This knee is a little higher than this one. So we've got an extreme curve here. Feet are flat, so I can move that down a little bit. And then we have, I think mine's a little more curved, maybe not. But we have, again, middle falling around the bottom of the chest ball. And we have that wonderful exaggerated pose here. Okay. Again, don't be confused. The length of the upper arm should be about the same in this position, unless they were sticking their arms straight out towards the camera or towards the viewer. That would change it a little bit, but we're not seeing that kind of pose. So even though that shoulder has changed, it's going to make you, maybe you have a tendency to make you want to make the hands on the same plane, the shoulders on the same plane. But keep in mind that generally this should fall about the same length, and this as well should fall about the same length with wood. Because the shoulder, everything follows suit. The shoulder on this character's right side is lower, which makes the right hand lower than the left hand. We're going to roughly draw in the divided ball and plane method here. So that's the first one. A little exaggerated here. I think I've exaggerated a little bit. That's something that's good to have a lot of practice on. Gain that position. Now let's do this back one here. It would probably help to just draw a floor for these characters. This one's a little tricky. You don't really know where to start. We'll start with the head, and we'll get that little ear in there. The spine rotates. Follow the spine, and understand how the pelvis is tilted up like this. He's drawn these dotted lines to help us understand this tilt, contrapposto. I'm not really saying that right. I don't know. No, have confidence, man. You're saying it correctly. All right, now we get the chest in there. Try to get the spacing correct. The tilt of the shoulder with the two shoulders. This arm going up like this with the hand raised. And this one coming down here about the same length on the upper arm. This one is almost foreshortened, but resting the hand on the hip there. And then the hip coming down all the way to the other side, swinging through, and very dramatic pose. And then the other hip coming down here and resting like so. This is why this doesn't feel natural in the beginning when you're drawing these out. So take your time on it. I think this is why Andrew Loomis says that you should draw this page carefully and become thoroughly familiar with the movement of each part, because it's not going to be a natural thing. This takes a lot of practice. This part will help us a little bit, and I'm going to do that on the next page. We'll go on to the third pose here. this head moving in this direction, slicing the ball, adding that, put the ear, put the nose, put the mouth. Does not need to be perfect. And then we have the position of the shoulders, which are not like these where they're a dramatic angle. Follow the contour, the center line of the chest ball, and then the spine wrapping around, putting the hip here, putting a center line on the hip, and then these two arms flare out like so and pretty much rest on the hip. So we've seen this pose in real life. And then these two the hip bones actually tilting in just like we said on the previous page. And then feeling that character standing like that. We've got 3 more. Let's do this. Hang in there. It's a little bit of intense practice. We're kind of going quick. Get the rough angle. This is one of those extreme head positions like this one, where the character is all the way looking up here, so you can hardly tell the features, but they're subtly drawn in there. And following suit, we can't even see the neck because it's foreshortened. And we're seeing the bottom opening of the rib cage with a very short center line on the front of the chest ball. And again, we're not really seeing the shoulder line that usually goes across the top because that is behind this chest ball as well. We are seeing the spine come out here at the bottom, and we are seeing the top of the pelvis. Yes, it is a physical shape. It's a 3-dimensional shape. And so it has depth to it that goes back like that. Very cool. Drawing these arms, again, rested on. He seems to like these positions where we are resting on the hips here. And then very similar to the last position, how the hips go down here in the middle. You got the knees and the 2 feet, well, followed by the 2 legs. Everything follows suit. This is a cool pose. Let's see if we got the room for it. We're lowering the head quite a bit. That one still has a midline that goes across to put the ear in. And looks like our characters are bumping into each other here a little bit, but we're putting that... No, I'm too lazy to go back and do it, but you can still see it here. You know what? Let's go over with an ink pen so you can see what I'm doing here. That is one way to define the two. So we have that head, a little ear. And we have the chest ball, which you can't see the front of it, but you can see like a sideline here, and the shoulder wrapping around there. Spine coming around the back, arching back here, creating the pelvis in this sense. And then we have the knees coming out here, lining up with each other. His or her left leg comes down with the knee and goes back in this sense. And then the other one comes down like this. And then the character's left arm, I believe, is arched back here, supporting the spine or the back here. And the character is got the shoulder here and reaching down for something. That looks like he's gonna have to reach a little more if whatever he's reaching for is on the ground. But you can see that position. And now we have one more. I think I can switch back to pencil so you can see the difference between these 3 characters that I've kind of overlapped a little bit. But this is a fun position. The head up here is almost at the same level, a little bit lower than this one, so we'll follow that over. It is arched back, center line here, nose, mouth, eyes, ears, and a little bit, again, similar to this one where the chest ball is rotating a little bit, so we're seeing less of the neck. Keep in mind that's an important thing, and more of the opening at the bottom. As if this were a skeleton, we're seeing the bottom of the rib cage. We want to understand how this shape, which is the rib cage, 3-dimensionally affects the character in the end. And then we have the spine coming out here, a little bit of tilt with the character on the pelvis and the center line. And then draw in these the thigh of the character. And then this spot right here Shows that how the character is leaning back. And keep in mind as you're drawing this, what we learned in the previous lesson about the curvature of the different bones, how the forearm, for instance, has a slight bow to it. And now we can show this little character waving as if to say, congratulations, you've completed this part. It's a very large hand. He's wearing a catcher's mitt. All right, let's flip over to the next page and see what we can learn on this, which is super cool. I'm going to squeeze this into this video. The weight of the body must be evenly distributed over a central point of gravity. This is equilibrium. Just a couple, and it's gone. What? I don't know what that means. To be honest, I don't know what he's saying. I do know what he's saying in general, which is that the pose must always be evenly distributed over a central point of gravity, and it's very easily depicted here with these triangles. The center is here, and the weight is distributed in both directions equally, so that even visually, your proportions are going to lie over this V grid that he's created. You have the center of gravity itself, and everything is falling more or less within the cone. Some features fall out, some features stay directly in, but overall, some go out here, some go out just a little bit here, but overall, they stay inside of the cone with everything falling a point above this center of gravity, all of the weight of the character being channeled through the physical form of the body into that position. Very cool. So we only got 4 characters to do. Let's draw the grid first. So I'll just draw the top of it. I'll draw the bottom. And we are going to need 1, 2, 3, 4 positions. So I'll divide it in this way. We're going to give them each their own space. Draw the upside down triangles, however you want to see it, over these positions. And then the center of gravity going down like this. So we're just gonna draw that in for ourselves with this ruler here. And then center of gravity right here. Center of gravity right here. Center of gravity here. And here. Now we have their dotted lines to represent the cone, where more or less the character is occupying this space. Doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, we should put more time, as long as it's accurate, we should put more time into drawing the characters than our construction lines here representing a theory, but this is to understand it more, of course. Okay. Okay, you've got these spaces which you can draw freely, 4 characters over top of this. Let's just copy what he's saying. The head happens in this section over here. You see the underside of the chin, the mouth, the nose, the eyes, the ears. The character arches through here. The hips are found overlapping the center of gravity, which is not surprising. And the chest ball is found right about here with that rib cage. Remember, the shoulders cannot be separated from the body. And we have this character's hands hanging over just a little bit. This one going all the way over into this other guy's space. Sorry about that, buddy. And we have, this is the leg where all of the force, all of the weight of the body is channeled directly down into the center of gravity, allowing a free movement of this leg to escape that center of gravity. But it all channels around there. This for me is mind-blowing. This technique right here, very, very helpful for me. And I hope you guys find it helpful as well. Okay, now we'll move on to the second one. This character is choosing to bend over and reach down for something. So the head is positioned here. Got the sideline, the ear, the eye, the little nose here, the neck. Now the chest ball, notice, is completely in the center of gravity, right here, just equally distributed right here. The neck goes or arches around the back, comes out here, allowing this character to kind of sit down a little bit. His pelvis is far on the left side of his range of motion of the center of gravity, in that cone of weight, I guess, gravity kind of weight allowing this character. But these features over here allow him to sit his pelvis in this way because there's also weight over here. Does that make sense to you? So he's sitting down. Practice this page a lot. Very good, very helpful. And he's reaching here. And his other arm, notice, is adding more weight over here to allow for this forward head weight. He's balancing himself by putting one arm back, one arm forward, keeping everything inside of that cone, but all of the weight being channeled down to this point, and counterbalancing. The weight of the pelvis counterbalanced a little bit by the head, the chest being basically in the middle, so it doesn't matter. It's equally sharing the weight, and these counterbalancing and so forth. Two more characters, hang in there. This character is very low. They're putting their head outside of the cone, which means we're going to have to expect some weight over here to keep this character afloat. So the chest is still, we got a lot of weight over here because you can see a lot of the chest ball is over that line. Very interesting. However, we will find out, and right now, how this is made possible. The pelvis is outside on this side. So you've got this equal distribution of weight in that sense, and all of the legs going through here and pulling in this sense, putting all this weight towards the center, but all this weight is balancing this weight. And then the shoulder, of course, reaching down to pluck a beautiful dandelion. And then this arm coming down, you can barely see it, is resting on the arm in such a way to let off some of that pressure. It's a very interesting character. Let's go over that one more time with some ink just so we can clearly define the features. Got that little head going out, got the ear, the nose. Let's draw in our features. Now this is where a lot of this chest ball is on this side and needs to be balanced by some weight. So what does that? Well, here we have the pelvis. A lot of weight over here. And all of the weight of those legs pushing in there and assisting in balance. Fascinating. Very good job, guys. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. If you have any comments, let me know. We got one more pose, and this one's very interesting. Let's start with the chest ball because it falls again right in the middle. Right in the middle. It says this is a very nice balancing element of this person. And we have this head where the spine is reaching up like this. The head is up here. On this side, so we need something over here. What do we have? Well, the spine comes around, attaches to the pelvis, and the pelvis dips outside of the balance, counterbalancing that, like we said. Very cool. There's the knee, the leg coming down, and this leg coming straight through the center of gravity. Beautiful. There's a lot of support here, and there's a lot of, here, this is cool. We got this leg coming through here and kicking outside, almost kicking this poor guy. That's pretty much what Loomis did. He did that right there. He's trying to kick this little guy, trying to get his flower. Maybe that's the wrong interpretation. Anyways, he's kicking and he needs something back here because he's put a lot of weight. The further it goes outside the center, that's another thing. When you pick up a box, it feels a lot heavier when it's far out. And that's true. The further something is outside of the center of balance, the more it throws off the balance. And the center of gravity, basically. The equilibrium. the central point of gravity. This is so far out, it's going to throw him off unless he throws his arms up like this. Very cool. He's throwing his arms up like this, helping him to kick. And that works. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments. Again, go back and watch some videos if you need a little bit of help with some of the previous concepts that build into this. We've done a lot in this video. Very cool. Take a look at that spread of a page. And we have this one, which is very exciting. This is all about central point of gravity and the equilibrium and balance of the human body in various poses. And we've drawn a lot of different poses, and I'm very proud of you guys. Let me know what you thought, and if you have any comments, please ask in the questions. I'd be happy to answer. If you haven't yet, I do encourage you to hit that subscribe button. I'm always releasing new content, cool content, help us learn to draw, and as well as some of my projects if you guys want to check those out too. Again, thank you so much for watching, and God bless.